How you doing? My name is BaySean Washington, and I'm here to give my family tree presentation for family and social systems. By starting off, I would like to talk about, show the diagram of my family tree. Starting with my mother's side of the family, we have Oscar and Laura Chestnut. They were married. My grandfather is Oscar Chestnut, and before he married my grandmother, you have Laura Owens, and that's when she became Chestnut. They had initially 5 children, and my mother ended up being the fourth child out of, and her name is Lenore Chestnut. On my father's side, you have the Washingtons, and that's where I received my last name from. You have Henry Lee Washington, and you have Emma Lee Washington. And sad to say, she's deceased now. May she rest in peace. And they gave off the offspring of Henry Lee Washington Jr., who is my father. He's been named after my grandfather. And when my mother and my father got married, they ended up having 2 kids together, which is, of course, my older brother, Raheem, who is 24, and me, BaySean, who is only 23. And with my brother, he had 1 child. He has an offspring himself, giving my nephew, Chance Keyron Washington. My family is very influential onto me and my brother and our upbringings, and just not to me and my brother, but to everybody in my family. We're all influential to each other, and I'm supposed to talk to you guys about how the social systems influenced my families and how all this keeps trickling down from generations to generation. The first generation I would like to start by talking about is me and my brother, because that's the most experience of the generation that I have, and I can talk about it personally because I have personal experience. Me and my brother grew up together. My mother raised us as a single parent. Her and my father got a divorce when I was 8 years old. So, of course, it was kind of difficult for my mother to raise 2 kids who are boys, and she's only one woman from at a time. So we actually didn't have a house of our own. We rented homes, so we moved from home to home, so my mother could be able to provide the necessities and pay rent so we could go to school and have somewhere to stay. Me and my brother, we got free lunch because my mother didn't make enough, so we ended up getting free lunch for school. We went to public school, free education, which is also funded by the government. So that's how me and my brother grew up. Our families are very Christian-like, so me and my brother go to church, and that's passed down onto my brother's son. He likes to go to church, and when he goes to church, he interacts in church, even though he probably don't know what's going on. So that's the generation. But I'm gonna go back talking about my mother and my father and how their upbringings and the social system affected them and how that moved on to us. My grandmother, Oscar and Laura Chestnut, gave birth to my mother, and my mother, I remember her talking about her upbringing and growing up. She was the 4th child, so my grandfather, he basically worked, and my grandmother stayed at home. So again, my grandfather had to go. My mother went through the same thing my grandfather went through, even though he really didn't have to, which was being able to afford for kids, and it's just him putting stuff onto this table. And that kind of showed how hardworking that my mother became after seeing that, because she's very hardworking, because now she has a son who's in the Army and graduated from college already, and now she has another son that's preparing to leave college. So that very shows you how that affected my mother. And my mother them necessarily shared one bedroom with her sisters, and you can try to say that's kind of cramped for one room for 5 girls and one bed, and they're all in different age groups, and that kind of took a toll on them. And going over to my father's dad, he's very hardworking, and that kind of showed off onto my dad just a little bit, because my dad they had a total of 8 kids. My grandfather Henry Lee Washington and my grandmother Emily Washington had a total of 8 kids, and my grandfather only had 3 boys and 5 girls. So he basically took his 3 boys, and my dad being the oldest out of all his kids, he molded them to be early workers, and that kind of made my dad want to work even harder in things. Of course, because he was the oldest and he had younger siblings to look up to him. My On that side of the family, I can't. They're very oriented in Christianity, but however, most of them kind of strayed away. It's not pushed onto us as hard, and you can kind of see that from when we do go to that side. That me and my brother usually don't go to church when we do go to that side of the family, and that kind of took a toll on my dad because now he really doesn't even go to church at all, and yeah, and by my father being hardworking, my mother being hardworking, they gave two hardworking kids who also succeeded in things. And even though my mother didn't go to college and my father didn't go to college, and actually my dad didn't even get a high school degree, that showed that just by them being hardworking, that led on to the younger generation, and we succeeded things that they were not able to accomplish. And now, since that is accomplished, we are hoping that Chance and my offsprings are to accomplish even greater things. And that's my family tree.